Hi guys, Madhav here, and today I'm planning to show mock testing. So these are the useful annotations in mock testing process. There is a framework called Mockito. This will help you to achieve mock testing. Let's see before moving into the execution part. Let's see what's mean by Mockito. Mockito is basically a framework, and it's a Java-based library used to develop the mock objects from the real object. Once we create the mock object, so it can work on some dummy input and dummy output instead the real behavior. Let's see one general example for better understandable purpose. If you see here, the right one is the real dog and the left one is the dummy puppy. So here my intention is want to test the real object behavior by providing some dummy object. So in this case, what will happen? The target one, the real one can go with assumptions and it can complete his functionality. So the Mockito is helping the target go with based on assumption instead expecting the real behavior from the dependent one. Let's see programmatically how can you achieve this. And before start the example, let's see what is the advantage when you go with assumption. If the target is go with assumptions. If you take the example 2, we already discussed in the previous video. And if I want to test this account controller, I need the repository and also the service. And there is a dependency called database. Everything is all these objects are like working as expected. Then only there is a possibility of testing this controller. So if you go with Mockito framework, so what happened? So Mockito framework help you to go with based on assumption instead expecting the real behavior from the dependent ones. Like see, if I want to test the controller, I need not to go with a real service behavior. So I can create the mock service and this controller can just assume it's acting upon his commands and then it can continue further execution from the controller so that I can able to test the controller logic. Same like if I want to test the service, so service is my target and it can just assume the repository is working based on his dummy inputs and dummy outputs, then it can continue its execution. So based on assumption, we are proceeding. The advantage is we no need to really bother like the subsequent downline layer or the any dependencies working up and running or not. That is one advantage. And the other advantage, if you run the same test cases in different region like the production or UAT, I need not to load any data or something. So it's going based on assumption. It can assume the same thing in all the layers, all the environment. If you go with the real behavior, if we want to run the same test case in different region, we need to load the same test data in database and all the layers are up and running or not, we need to make sure. But if you go with assumption, that's not really required. We can just focus on the target and the subsequent downline, it can just go with assumption. Let's see programmatically how can you achieve this. So there is a Junit 3 example, and there my intention is want to test the service layer, and there is a class called account service. And if you see, this is my target, and this target having two dependencies, repository and template, and the same time for this repository is getting based on account ID and it is getting some data, and there is a dependent JDBC template also expecting two parameters and returning some data. So now using Mockito, what I can do, I can educate my target, just go with assumption on the dependent one. You no need to expect the real behavior of these properties. Let's see how can you do that in programmatic manner. Here I written one JUnit test, and if you see the annotations what I used, So on top there is one annotation extend with and spring extension. This actually telling we are using the spring features and not expecting any context. And there are one more annotation inject mock, and there is a line number 26. It's our target. Our target always will be inject mock. If you're going with like a extend with, right, so always the target will be inject mock. So this actually telling we are not expecting the context, but we are trying to use some spring features like bean creation and auto injection, something like that. And the dependent properties of this account service always will be a mock. Annotate should be with mock. This is the way we need to use the annotations. And if you see the target testing, so there I written one test method, and here I am calling. This is where I'm calling my target method. And based on that, after getting some data, I'm just doing some asset statement and println and something like this. And line number 38, there we are actually writing mockito.when and repository find customer ID, and there we are providing some dummy input and returning some dummy response. So this actually helps the target to go with based on assumption instead expecting the real behavior. So this actually telling the target when you call this method in the same flow, if any area, if this method got encountered, just go with these assumptions. It already expect we passed some dummy and some dummy response, then it can continue its further execution. Let's see where that statement got encountered. So here is the statement got encountered. So instead expecting the real behavior of this method call, it can just assume based on the dummy input and some dummy response, and it will execute these further statements. Okay, so let's see the execution. So no database, nothing, only these three objects got created for running this test case. There is no any context or something. Now next see the one more example here. Same like here, this is my target. I'm calling my target method, and when you call this target and there is a mockito.when, here what I'm telling template.query. If you encountered any template.query, just go with assumption instead expecting the real behavior. That's what it is doing. It is getting some records, and based on the size I'm able to write the asset statement. Let's see the execution part. Yeah, it's got completed and successfully executed. So the advantage, if I run the same test case in different regions like UAT or productions, it can assume the same thing. No need to provide the database connection and no need to load the test data for writing the test cases. And there is one more example. If you see the example 2, I will discuss one more annotation here, mock bean. So in the integration testing, if you want to achieve the mock behavior, so there is an annotation called mock bean. This will help you to replace the bean in the context with the mock bean. Now if you see here, so this is my target method call, and here actually we are telling instead expecting the real behavior of the dependent one, go with the mock behavior. So this is how mockito.when will educate the target one, go with the mock behavior instead expect the real behavior. And there also will be the same. This is my target, and Mockito.when is help to go with assumptions instead the real behavior. So this mock bean will help you when you go with when we have the context and want to go with the mock behavior instead the real behavior. So hope this is clear, and we'll continue the next. Thank you.